Welcome to the May 5th, 2020 Board of Commissioner meetings. Please silence your cell phones, pagers, and other electronic communication devices. Agendas are located at the back of the chambers, and if you'd like to speak on a speaker request form, they are on the back of the bookcases as well. If you want to speak on any item, and Miss Holly, you'll hand them to Miss Holly at the left of the dais. First, we'll have a moment of silent reflection, and then pledge allegiance by Commissioner Drews.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we'll have review and approval of the agenda, please.
So move.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroix. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have the executive proclamation, Pennington County Corrections Week. The sheriff here? Sheriff and Joe and Brian, Rob, and family.
Family. Good morning, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff. First, thanks for taking the time to come do the tour this morning of the laundry and kitchen and work we've been doing at the jail. So I appreciate you seeing that. It's quite the operation and gives you appreciation for the volume of food and laundry we do, through there. Corrections have a challenging time, many even more so during our COVID-19 crisis that we're dealing with, trying to make sure we keep it out of our facilities. Of course, we deal with infectious disease all the time, from hepatitis, tuberculosis, HIV, and so it's something we're cognizant of throughout the year. But it's challenging when the staff are confined that close with, inmates in our facilities and, of course, Care Campus, Juvenile Services Center. So we appreciate what they do. It's not an easy task, but they do it, and they treat people with respect, which is what we appreciate, and they're professional in how they do their work. So today with me, I have both chief deputies, Brian Mueller and Willie Welchel, and then also have our jail commander, Rob Yantis, and our JSC commander, Joe Gutierrez. And Rob's going to come up and introduce the staff that are here from the jail. Joe will introduce the staff that are here from JSC, and one of the JSC correctional officers will read the proclamation. So,
Thank you.
Morning. Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm going to have our wonderful staff come and introduce themselves.
I'm Officer McPherson. I've been with the county for about 4 years now.
I'm Senior Officer, Correctional Officer Anna Bingham. I've been with the jail for 4.5 years now.
Sergeant David Rickey. I've been with the Pennington County Jail now for a little over 20 years. Thank you.
Oh.
Morning. Joe Gutierrez, Commander, Juvenile Services Center. Just finished my 9th year at the Juvenile Services Center. Today, I'd like to present 3 of the finest correctional officers at our facility. They're all field training officers. They can introduce themselves and tell you how many years they've been with JSC.
Mary Fair, 5 years.
I am Correctional Officer Morton. I have been with Pennington County since 2014.
Correctional Officer Adam Bird, been with JSC for 3 years now.
I'd like to invite Correctional Officer Mary Fair to read the proclamation.
Thank you. You can come up here, Miss Mary. Right there. Thank you, ma'am.
Whereas May 3rd through May 9th, 2020, we will be celebrated across the United States as National Corrections Week. And whereas the correction profession is one of the most challenging professions one can pursue, it is also one of the most noble. Correction staff help keep our citizens and our community safe, not simply by securing jails and juvenile detention facilities and the offenders confined therein. Correctional employees serve admirably throughout the Pennington County Jail and Juvenile Service Center as custody officers, counselors, teachers, chaplains, healthcare professionals, support staff, supervisors, and commanders. They are among the most capable, committed, patient, and persistent public servants in our nation. And whereas few truly understand the difficulties and challenges these corrections professionals face daily, often a personal risk. They are given those who have engaged in serious and addictive behaviors, along with the responsibilities to reform and rehabilitate. They are given society's illiterate and unskilled and the task to educate. They are given those who lack medical care or who are in poor health and must help them well. They are given the mentally ill and the responsibility to diagnose, treat, protect. Correction staff are in the position to offer offenders better example and a new path. The staff do so with limited resources and often with little awareness or acknowledgement from those outside the field of corrections. Yet, correctional employees continue to rise to the challenge time and again. And whereas it is appropriate, we honor the correction staff in our Pennington County correctional facilities for their invaluable contribution to our society. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners, County of Pennington County, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim the week of May 3rd through May 9th, 2020 as Pennington County Corrections Week and encourage the citizens of Pennington County to share the knowledge, acknowledging the outstanding job the Pennington County Corrections staff perform on a daily basis in serving the entire community.
Thank you, Ms. Correction Officer, Ms. Fair. Bottom line, guys, is this week is to honor you folks and everything that you do for us, and we appreciate you a whole lot as commissioners. This is a hard job to do. Not a lot of people want to do it, so we appreciate everything you do for Pennington County and for our inmates and our people here to keep people safe. So thank you very much.
Yeah, here you go.
That's why it's like, okay, good. like COVID week.
We just did that on TV.
As long as we're doing this.
Somebody stole yours?
I took it home.
Here. Took it home. That's awesome. All right. So next is the Executive Proclamation Public Service Recognition Week, May 3rd through the 9th, 2020.
Approve that proclamation.
I'm sorry.
Do you want to make a motion to approve the chair's signature on the first proclamation?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by
Second.
Drews, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Number 6 is the Executive Proclamation Public Service Recognition Week, May 3rd through the 9th, 2020. Gary, please.
Executive Proclamation, Pennington County, South Dakota, Public Service Recognition Week. Whereas each year since 1985, the U.S. Congress designates the first week of May as Public Service Recognition Week, time set aside to honor public employees and to educate the public about the many ways government workers make life better for all Americans. And whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels, these unsung champions do the work that keeps our nation working. And whereas the men and women who work for our government tackle some of the most important challenges and opportunities facing our country. And whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. And whereas the Pennington County Board of Commissioners is extremely proud of the dedication shown by its employees
Day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government and efficiency and integrity. The board chooses to honor all county employees who exemplify the significant and invaluable contributions public servants make to the quality of life in our country, in our county. And now, therefore, we as Pennington County Board of Commissioners of Pennington County, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through May 9th, 2020 as Pennington County Public Service Recognition Week. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, and city. Join us this week and throughout the year in showing them respect and appreciation they seldom receive yet richly deserved. Signed this 5th day of May 2020 at Pennington County, South Dakota, the Pennington County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Gary. And again, thank you to all our employees and their dedication to Pennington County. We have some amazing department heads and some amazing employees in Pennington County. We appreciate them all.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion authorizing the chair to sign this proclamation.
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Drews and Commissioner DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda. Ms. Holly?
And Commissioners, one item of note, on the wall outside the chambers right here, we have a banner with all the reasons why people or county employees choose to serve. A lot of employees have submitted their reasons, so if you have a moment, take a look and read the wall outside. There's some pretty amazing reasons why our employees choose.
Thank you, Ms. Holly.
So, with that, the Board of Commissioners uses the consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes from the special meeting of April 17th, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of April 21st, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization hearings held in April. Number 10 is to schedule a public hearing at 9:15 a.m. on May 19th, 2020 for Budget Supplement SP 20-007 for the General Fund Jail Budget, the Principal Kitchen Lease Budget, and the Interest Kitchen Equipment Lease Budget. Number 11 is to acknowledge the 2020 polling place list as the official polling locations for the election year 2020 as submitted by the auditor. Number 12 is to acknowledge the filing of petitions signed by at least 25% of the eligible voters within the proposed district and to set an election date on the question of the formation of the Burgess Road District to be held on June 16th, 2020. Number 13 is approval to apply for the following grants: the Assistant to Firefighters Grant, the Gary Sinise Foundation First Responders Outreach, Firehouse Subs Foundation, Farm Credit Services of America, and Golden West as submitted by the Fire Administrator. And finally, number 14 is to authorize Scott Guffey, the Natural Resources Director, to apply for an open position on the Black Hills National Forest Advisory Board.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Is there anyone from the public who wish to remove any items 7 through 14? If not, is there any commissioner who wish to remove any item from the consent agenda besides number 14 for Commissioner LaCroix? If not, approval of every item 7 through 13.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Drews, second by LaCroix. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 14, Commissioner LaCroix.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I requested this pulled because I think it'd be in our best interest as the commission to do a letter of support for Scott Guffey for the Black Hills National Forest Advisory Board. Scott, it's a long process, long application process, could take up to, I think, 6 months to a year. Sometimes it's been taking slow, but the application goes to the Secretary of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. I just think Scott's done an outstanding job for not only Pennington County, but his knowledge for the forest and the environment. I think he'd be a big asset to the Forestry Board, and I'm looking forward to him doing this application. And quite frankly, he's helped me out. I'm alternate for the board, and I'd probably be his alternate if he gets chosen. So I think it'd be a good route to go. But I don't know if Scott's got anything to to add to this, but I think I'd probably look for a motion to have Holly draft up a letter of support.
So move.
Second.
Motion to support, a letter of support for Mr. Guffey
Scott.
to speak.
Scott Guffey, Pennington County Natural Resource Director. Appreciate the letter of support and the motion for support. Hopefully I can get appointed to that board. I've been involved in some subcommittees with that board in the past and spoke to them. I'm quite familiar with it and what they're all involved in, and they have a big influence on what goes on in the Forest Service, so hopefully
Thank you,
I can
Mr.
get on
Guffey.
board there.
You always do a great job for us. Again, above and beyond, and we always appreciate that, sir.
I appreciate it.
Madam
Thanks for
Chair.
your interest in doing it.
So I think the motion was to authorize apply and a letter of support.
Yes, sir.
After spending 2 hours with Scott and Lloyd last Friday on a audio conference call with scientists and Forest Service officials, I just have a hard time comprehending your title, Weed and Pests, because you do so much more than weed and pests. So I know we can't change it because of certain situations, but
We're working on it.
good job, Scott.
See if we can do something.
Natural Resource Director.
There you go. That sounds better. One last follow-up, Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
As Roskinek said, I really appreciate not only your background, but your enthusiasm and your knowledge of what's happening, not only in our county, but in our forest system. And I believe you'll be a great asset to it. And I appreciate your help for all this. I mean, that 2 hours, we're asking Scott questions. So I think you'd be a perfect fit for this board. And there's only 2 in the nation, if I remember right, and that's
Yep.
the Black Hills and in Maine. So this is a pretty prestigious board.
Yeah, it's important that we keep this active and going, so yeah, for sure.
Nice. Thank you, Mr. Guffey.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Madam Chair, do we need a separate motion to authorize him to apply for it too? That was for a letter of support. so-
Motion included both.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Okay, next we're on regular agenda items. Items from the Sheriff, Addiction Treatment Services Counselor position fill. Does that say deny on here?
Well, at least let me hear what I have to say anyway. Again, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff. Again, in keeping with the previous memo we submitted in the hiring freeze, come before you today asking to backfill a position. It's not a plus up from what we submitted before. It's a position that was recently going to be vacated, so we need to go ahead and fill it and continue to provide the addiction services. And those positions generate revenue to support the position. So would ask for permission to go ahead and fill that position.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Roskinek, second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Item 16, item from Emergency Management Communication Center. Kevin Carley, please, hiring request.
Good morning, Kevin Carley, Director, ESCC. As I indicated in my budget memo and also last week in the memo I drafted, I'm looking for permission to hire or fill 3 dispatch positions. We currently have 4 open positions. One of those is the admin assistant. We're going to leave that open to help us reach our 10% budget reduction, but the 3 positions that we need to fill are dispatch positions. They will go directly to the floor when we hire them, and they'll be answering 911 calls and providing dispatch services to our users. So those are important
Kevin,
jobs
those
to
are
be filled.
in your 10%.
Yes, we have the money within our budget to fund those currently. So,
Thank you,
and
sir.
we had a user board meeting last week, and our user board voted to support that and also request that you grant that.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve.
Motion by DeSanto, second by LaCroix. Any discussion? All in
Madam
favor?
Chair,
Oh, Commissioner LaCroix.
I just want to point out for the public that we can't do without 3 dispatcher positions. This is a public safety issue. We know that we have put on a hiring freeze. However, when it comes to the public safety, we can't afford to be operating with 3 dispatchers short. They're busy as it is, to say the least. So just for public consideration.
Thank you. They have it in their budget, a lot of the positions that we have moved forward or the revenue generated, so they're not taken away from their 10%. So thank you, Commissioner DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Items from Highway Department, 2020 County Striping Agreement.
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Superintendent. First up in front of you is county striping agreement. This is something that the county's been a part of for 16 years now. County policy, basically any road that's over 35 miles an hour is striped. The funding is not guaranteed for the state funds this program. Basically, they put up $500,000 for all 66 counties in the state. It gets proportionals via miles of asphalt. We've got 350 or so. The limit for Pennington County in 2019 was 124,581. I got a number messed up there. 2020, it's 44,911. I'm assuming I'm missing a one there, but anyways, state pays 60% of the limit there. Bottom line, the cost to the county in 2020 is going to be $244,198.40. State is paying the 186. Excuse me. $86,946.73. So the overcost is just due to the sheer amount of asphalt miles that we have to stripe. So,
Do you have a motion or discussion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Roskinek.
Second.
Second by Juice. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item B, sir.
item B is an agreement for the fencing on Sheridan Lake Road. This fencing agreement comes to you. We've met with the Forest Service out on site. Their goal and our goal is to get the cattle off of Sheridan Lake Road once it's reconstructed to make it not only a safer road, but for the traveling public, but for the lessee's cattle. The Forest Service has agreed to supply the materials, and the county will supply or pay for the labor. This is a great benefit to both of us. The agreement comes out to about 50-50 cost share. There is a portion that the Forest Service is going to be reimbursing the county for because it veers off of the right-of-way off there by Dakota Point. It's just really rocky terrain. We're not even doing any grading to lay back those slopes. We're actually putting curb and gutter in there, and it wasn't feasible or cost-effective to put a fence in there. So the Forest Service has agreed to pay us for that portion that's going back on the Forest Service land out of the right-of-way. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Joe, those fences, they'll essentially be drift fences for cattle, for open range cattle?
I guess drift fences, what do you mean?
Well, it's a containment for, they have a lot of cattle leases in that area, I assume. So those fences are necessary to keep those cattle off Sheridan Lake Road, would be my guess.
That is correct. Currently, Sheridan Lake Road is open range, and there are cattle on the road. Mark might be able to, I think it's from probably about Boulder Hill all the way out to 385 is open range. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Roskinek.
Second.
Second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item C, please.
Item C comes to you, a resolution to lower the speed limit on 151st Avenue, just north of Interstate 90 south to Highway 1416. One of the main reasons for this is the safety of the traveling public. The state has a guardrail project. They're currently putting guardrail underneath the overpasses of I-90 to protect the public from hitting the bridge structures and protect the bridge structures themselves. There's some leeway in there with the speed limits and warrants with ADT. There's several different criteria that it has to meet to not be able to have the clear zone, or excuse me, not have the guardrail put in there. On this one, it is a very narrow stretch of road. I think the road top is 22 foot wide, and there's no shoulder on either side. As you can see in the pictures there, our snowplow isn't able to operate that or maneuver that safely. So we're requesting to lower that speed limit to 40, so it doesn't meet any of the warrants for guardrail, and they'll take the guardrail out at that point. Mark and I drove that road last week, or the week before, I don't recall, but there's a 30-mile-an-hour curve or a 35-mile-an-hour curve just south of that, so you're slowing down anyways to get to 14, 16. So this speed limit makes sense both from that standpoint and a safety standpoint. With that, I will stand for any questions.
So Joe, you're talking about permanently reducing it?
Yes.
Do you have a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ross Connect. Any other discussion? Mr. Drews? Good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item D.
All right, item D is a relatively new, we just got to this, I think, 2 weeks ago. The federal government has allocated $33 million, $33.8 million to the state for bridge rehabilitation for any bridges that currently are load rated, basically, on the federal inventory. The state has, overall, South Dakota has approximately 19 million square feet of overall deck area. Approximately 1.8 million of that is considered in poor condition, for a total of 9.6%. The state has roughly 436,000 square feet of deck area that are rated in poor condition. And the local, which is the counties, have 1.4 million square feet of deck area that for structures that are rated in poor condition. We've put together an application to replace or to apply to replace 3 bridges. There's 2 on Paulson that serve our ranch, and then there's 1 on Heather Road that also serve our ranch. The nice part about this is in the big funds, once we possibly, or if we ever get to apply for the big funds, these won't be bridges that are considered on that because they serve only 1 residence. And with the big funding, that would throw those out. So this is a good way for us to try and replace some of the bridges that are on our inventory and get some cost share help with that. The county would be, it was an 18.05% match. Bill Welk, our engineer, who did an estimate on these, estimated each of them at about 700,000 because they are one way in, one way out for both of these ranches. So there's got to be a detour of some sort constructed. So that would make our share $140,000 for each of these bridges. The construction of these bridges, if granted in this program, won't be till, Mark, what did they say, 23, 24? 24, 25. So it's a good way for the county to try and save some money and get these bridges that are rated in poor condition.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ross.
Joe, would these bridges be similar to the one that went out by New Underwood at 158?
Yes.
Wasn't our cost for that bridge about 177, and that included disposal of the old bridge?
Correct. That it would be similar to that, yes.
So would we replace these 3 bridges similar with the concrete, like the one at 158?
The difference with this is federal money, so you have to meet the federal standards. So it would be a 2-lane bridge that met federal standards, basically.
I see some of these just access ranch land.
That's what these are. The one on Heather Road, there is 1 ranch, and the 2 on Paulson is actually, there's 2 that are allowing access to a ranch. So
I enjoy getting the government money, but it just seems a 2-lane bridge to access a ranch seems like a little overkill. But
yeah, and we saved quite a bit of money on that 164th bridge. If we had to go through the normal process and all the environmental studies and the engineering, it'd probably cost us $250,000. So we're still going to save some money with this program if we get granted even one. So
Joe, what's the minimum width on a 2-lane? Is it 24?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I believe, Mark, do you know?
The question is, what's the width on a two-lane? Is that 24 feet or? Minimum, okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto?
So the bottom line is, what you're saying, Joe, is that we're going to spend less money on a two-lane bridge than we would replacing it with a one-lane bridge.
Correct.
That's what, it's going
If
to
this is
cost the county less because of this federal funding.
Yes, if we get, we're putting in 3 applications. They're using a modified big score, so they're using their scoring for the big grants to kind of grant this money out. And it's gonna be a fairly quick grant. It's gonna be, I think they want applications by the end of this month, and they're gonna grant them in mid-June. So
Nice.
we should know fairly quickly.
Nice.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy?
One question, as you were talking, Joe, you were talking about the deck areas that need to be replaced. Is this grant gonna help with resurfacing some of the deck areas or no?
This would just be basically replacing the whole, this is area of deck, so that's just a way they had to proportion it, right? Because some bridges are smaller, some bridges are larger. It's the area of deck unit on a substan, or a bridge that's
Okay.
in need of repair, I guess,
Okay.
or load rated.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item E, please, hiring request.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Drews.
Before he goes into that, I just want to make the commission aware that I've asked Joe to bring to us at our next meeting the cost of and maintenance and repair of other bridges and roads throughout the county for our May, I think it's 21st.
May
21st.
18th, or no, it is 19th.
May, whatever date that is, May 19th. So, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Gary. Hiring request, Joe.
This is a hiring request. Last Monday, we had a gentleman in our Hill City division put in his 2 weeks' notice. So this request comes to you to fill that position. If that position isn't filled, would leave Hill City with 2 maintenance workers and a foreman. It's definitely a public safety issue to not fill that.
Is it in your 10%? But
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
So when you say maintenance, I mean, it's more than just turning wrenches. It's maintaining roads in that southern hills around Hill City.
Correct, yes.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Roskinek, second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Usually when you talk, Ron, you can't make a motion, but we're just
Sorry.
being okay with that today. It's all good. We won't be the Gestapo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Item from Human Resources, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Morrow, Pennington County Human Resources. So we've got a few things here for you today. Item A is actually removal of some wording that we had updated at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, if you will. So at this point, it's no longer needed because the Families First Coronavirus Response Act actually provides under federal guidance the same things that we had done internally. So we're asking for permission or an approval to actually remove that wording. And it's indicated on the 2 policies that you have, and it's shaded in yellow and has been struck through. So this would just remove those additional pieces that had been added.
Madam Chair, I'd move to remove those temporary provisions.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, John.
Okay,
Item
thank you.
18B, please, sir.
Yep. Item B is actually a couple of different pieces as well. So one has with regard to employee health care premiums, and then the second piece of it, so there's 2 separate memos, but the second piece talks about updating the actual verbiage around our long-term employment or retiree health care benefits. The first one is basically changing the wording in our handbook so that we don't have to continually recalculate what the premiums are down to the cent. This would allow us to have a general statement that speaks to it. So again, currently it says in the handbook that Pennington County pays 75% of the employee premium and then 50% of the family, matched by 50% towards the family by the employee. What we're asking to do is change that section to read Pennington County pays a portion of the employee and dependent, eligible dependent premiums. You're responsible for paying the balance of the healthcare premium amount. So again, it simplifies it, takes out the specific percentages, still will accomplish the same process. It just removes that requirement to calculate again down to the cent to make sure we're at 75 and or 50% for those two pieces.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So move.
Moved by Drews,
Second for
second by
discussion,
LaCroy.
Madam Chair.
Discussion, Commissioner LaCroy.
So John, just a little update, probably a briefing of the health care board. This makes sense, but I think from the employee standpoint, they see 75%, they might get the perception that, oh, now they're taking that away. Not saying that we're gonna have to pay more. How is the health board doing?
No, so the Healthcare Trust is actually doing very well. We've been very consistent as far as our balance. The premiums have been consistent for the last 4 years. Actually, 4 years ago, we had a decrease in premiums. And as you know, we're self-funded, so it's based upon money from the county and from the employees. Fortunately, our claims have been such over the last few years, we haven't had an increase in premiums for the employees or for the county. We have that actually in our interim or our preliminary budget work for 21 is going to be, again, no increase in premiums at this point. So unless things blow up, and we don't really anticipate that, across the country, healthcare costs have actually dropped, if you will, which is kind of a nice pattern. But I think it's because there hasn't been access to health services. Everything is focused on COVID-19 right now. But honestly, it's going well. This won't increase or change the dollars that employees are asked to pay. It will be very consistent, again, for the next year is our proposal.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure the employees hear that
Madam Chair.
we're doing good.
Commissioner Drews.
I think that as part of the Healthcare Trust Board, I think this is a good move, and I don't think employees need to be concerned. It just doesn't tie the trust board to a certain percentage that they have to do. In fact, this may end up being a benefit for employees.
Thank you, Commissioner Drews. We do have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item C.
Okay, so there's still the second piece of item B, if you will, and it has to do with the retiree health care benefit. And basically, it's an update to the information that's in the employee handbook. And attached to that memo is the updated version. What this has done is remove some wording that was no longer necessary. The original document included wording about employees who were on the fund as of 2014, et cetera, et cetera. There's a couple of extra paragraphs that we actually realized don't apply to anyone at this point. So this just simplifies the document, and actually it is as shown in the attachment to this memo as well. We're just seeking approval to actually put that in place in the handbook.
That was on our motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Gotcha.
sir.
Okay.
That's okay, sir.
So items.
Good explanation, though, John.
Thank you.
And we needed that explanation.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The third piece I have here, so item C here, is actually the formal motion to appoint Brittany Molitor to the Planning and Zoning Director position. Okay. We worked on this last week. We just didn't get the actual motion. So.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. To approve Brittany.
Move to appoint Brittany Molitor as the Planning and Zoning Director effective April 19, 2020, grade 24, step 3 for biweekly salary $3,131.20. Motion made by Roskinek, second by Drews. Discussion?
Well, I want to make sure Brittany will accept.
You're okay?
Yeah. Congratulations, Brittany.
You've been doing an amazing job, Brittany. Thank you for everything you've been doing. Your staff is doing very well, and your department is moving up in many things since you've been the director. We appreciate you a whole lot, Miss Brittany. Motion made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Items from Commission Manager, then Ms. Holly Hennings. All
All right, Commissioners, first item you have in front of you is a request for approval of the chair's signature on a letter, basically a statement of support to declare Ellsworth Air Force Base as the main operating base for the B-21s. I'd like to give a big thank you to Lynn Kendall and Scott Langoff from the South Dakota Ellsworth Development Authority, who helped me draft that letter.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair. I just, the only question I'd have on that is I'd like to see, it says commission supports it. I'd just like the proclamation that Gary read. You have all the commissioners' names underneath it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We can
That's
have
the
everybody
only
sign.
thing I think would be appropriate for that document that I'd noticed, if the board's okay with that.
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't see a problem with it. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Who made
Whoops.
the motion?
Do you have a
Whoops.
motion?
No, I didn't.
You
I was
didn't.
thinking
I'll
after.
make the motion. I'll make the motion.
Motion
Second.
made by Drews, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Usually we have a motion, sorry. Item B, Walter Taylor 4-H Building Use Agreement.
Yes, this comes to you from the Extension Advisory Board. They recently went through and updated their agreement, their use agreement, and that is presented for your consideration, and I'm sure Mark can answer any questions as well if you have any regarding that agreement.
If not, motion, please.
Move
To
approval.
approve.
Moved by LaCroix, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Proposed resolutions, Ms. Hawley?
Yep, the no action is requested today, Commissioners. This is just a friendly reminder that we need to start thinking about resolutions that this commission wishes to move forward. We will need to have them done by the end of June so they can move forward to the District Association of County Commissioners in July and ultimately through to the State Association in September.
Do we have anything from last year that we're pushing this year, Commissioner Drews?
Well, there may be a couple items that were left out there last year. Obviously, the temperature has changed a little bit as far as what the legislature may be willing to consider, considering what we've dealt with as far as the virus and stuff. So we'll have to give some thought to that as to what we might bring back and recommend to this commission.
Thank you. Not, can we go into executive, are you
Yes,
done, Ms. Hawley?
Commissioners,
Can we
you
go into
can
executive session?
Deal
Okay.
with your two items.
So
So
we have
move.
personnel today, and, let me look, sorry, SDCL 1-25-2, and then we have contractual pending litigation, SDCL 1-25-3. Motion by
Drews.
Drews, second by
DeSanto.
Sano. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, kids. Ready, Joan? Okay, move to come out of executive session.
So moved.
No. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Motion by Drews, second by DeSanto. There's nothing to report on executive session, so we'll move on to committee reports. Mr. DeSanto.
No committee reports this week.
Cross Connect?
As I said earlier, Lloyd and I and Scott Guppy attended a 2-hour audio conference with a scientist down in Colorado, some Forest Service officials in the area, discussing the proposed cutback on the timber harvesting. And Scott would be a lot better versed to go over the details of that, but that was a interesting 2 hours. Lloyd can probably fill you in a little bit more.
You? We had a lot of governor meetings and a lot of the Pennington County City meetings, but most of that, guys, they put in the paper the next day, or we put it on the emails, so. That's mostly what I've been doing, is going to those meetings with emergency management and Gary and Holly to different meetings, and we did tell about the shelter that they're having for the homeless at the Civic Center and the screening of the tents by the pavilion, so I'll let Gary go ahead.
Okay, first one is Chair and I attended the Big Five meeting last week, which does include School of Mines, Western Dakota. And, they're talking about, where they're at as far as fall athletics and so forth for start of the school year and so forth. And basically, none of those decisions have been firmed at this point in time. So those discussions will continue. Also, at the building committee meeting last week, and there will be another building committee meeting this afternoon. But at that, we talked about, with the property on La Crosse Street has been up for discussion. We had made a offer to Cornerstone that if they would be interested in that building, that we gave them until May 1st to take a look at it and determine whether or not they would like to consider that. Following our meeting the other day, last Tuesday, we received a note from them basically saying their board of directors has voted not to pursue that. So this will be back at the county level to decide use or disposal of that property over on La Crosse that we no longer have any utilization at the current time for. Then we also had the Black Hills Council of Local Governments meeting. This was a Zoom meeting. I think maybe about the only thing that really came out of that, and of course they're obviously working with all the various government entities that are a part of the Council of Governments, trying to look out for their best interest here relative to the COVID-19 and how that's been impacting various counties and cities. And so they're looking at, what may be coming down the pike here that may be available. The one thing that Jennifer, the executive there, made mention of is she is looking at a new partnership in that with the USDA administration. And this is a way of that they can also generate revenue. She's familiar with that from her previous history of working out of the planning district out of Aberdeen. They were part of, they did help manage some of the USDA stuff. So that's a very positive thing for, I think, looking at in the future for this Black Hills district. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioner LaCroy?
Thank you. I think I'll just follow up a little bit on what Ron talked about with the timber growth and yield draft. What that has to do with was how much harvesting and thinning of the forest for our timber industry in the area, what it means to them. And that was the meeting that we attended, was a stakeholders meeting, which was part of the Northern Hills area that pretty much fed into that. It's pretty important because I think a lot of people forget about how many businesses that we have in our area, sawmills, byproducts of everything else. And so the yield that comes out of there and all that's involved with the forest systems is pretty overwhelming. That's why I thought Scott Guffey being involved with the Black Hills National Forest Board is an ideal, because he's really up on that. For a healthy, resilient forest, we need to do thinning and manage the forest, and we need to get the numbers right. And that's what this draft is all about, get the stakeholders involved. And so that's the only one I can really report on for this week. And it probably needs more information. There's not, I can send out Ron did a good job sending out the draft of Scott Guffey's report on the meeting. So that's probably all I've got really to report on this week.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek?
I asked Scott to give me a follow-up. He did a nice job, and I submitted that to the Hill City Prevailer yesterday. So, and the local paper in Hill City will have some good information.
Thank you, Ron. We have nothing else to report on. Do we have approval of the vouchers, $720,741.91?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Drew, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have to wait till 10:30 for Board of Adjustment. Do we have any public comment today? If not, we'll, got 5 minutes. We have to wait till 10:30, folks, for the Board of Adjustment, so we'll take a 5-minute break again. Let's do,
Make a motion to go into Board of Adjustment.
Second?
motion made by Drew, second by Dissent to go in Board of Adjustment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. First item is to continue till June 16th, the variance for Tom and Pam Troxel, please.
So move.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
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 Is there anything?
All opposed, motion carries.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, okay. Miss Brittany, regular?
Yes, item B, Brittany Molitor, Planning Director.
Yeah, I
Oh,
make a
sorry.
motion to come out of Board of Adjustment.
Second?
Come out of Board of Adjustment by Drews, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay, item B, Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. Item B is a request to amend the original contract to remove subtask 6.7, the 4-code evaluation from Matrix Design Group. During the process, as getting the plan wrapped up, and they had to look into doing more iterations than they were originally budgeted, and they've expended all of their budget for this contract. So the 4-code evaluation was for Matrix to look at our zoning ordinance, our subregs, our nuisance ordinance, and our flood damage prevention ordinance. And since Mr. Vargo has kindly allowed a state's attorney to be assigned to our office, that task isn't necessarily necessary. So to do a budget amendment for that contract doesn't seem needed. So this is just to remove that task from the contract, and then we can pay out the remainder of the contract.
Thank you. Do we have a discussion or a motion, please?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by Drews. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Item C is the public hearing amendment of Pennington County Comprehensive Plan, approval by resolution. At the April 7th, 2020, the Board of Commissioners approved Pennington County Comprehensive Plan View to 2040 to amend and supersede Pennington County's existing comprehensive plan with 3 minor changes by motion. Pennington County View to 2040 Comprehensive Plan must be approved by resolution per SDCL 11-2-20. So staff is recommending that we approve the resolution for the View to 2040 Comprehensive Plan to amend and supersede the existing comprehensive plan.
You have a motion, please.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Drews.
I'd move to approve the resolution approving Pennington County Comprehensive Plan View to 2040 to amend and supersede Pennington County's existing comprehensive plan.
So motion by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Do we have any discussion by the board or the public? If not,
My question to Brittany is, this is the last time we'll see this, right?
This is.
Long process. Thank you.
Yes.
thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 20D, please.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Tennyson, County Planner. Agenda item D is Layout Plan 20-07 for Robert Shrivers. The other landowners affected are Leland and Pamela Winchester. Agent is All Aspects Incorporated Land Surveying. The applicants have applied for Layout Plan 20-07 to reconfigure lot lines in order to create Lot 1D, or D1, of northeast quarter of the northeast quarter and Lot 1A of the DRJ subdivision. These are the proposed lots, the existing lots and the proposed lots on the screen for you. For ease of description, the property description or properties are labeled A, B, and C. Lot A is zoned suburban residential district consisting of 0.87 acres. Takes access off of Morse Place, and it is within the Morse Place Morse Place Road District. There's no special flood hazard area on the property. It does contain an 8x12 shed, and that is located within the section line right-of-way, which will be addressed as a condition of approval. Lot B is zoned suburban residential district, consists of 0.24 acres. This lot takes access off of Log Porch Road. It is not located within a road district. There is a right-of-way with unknown origin on the property, and this is addressed as a condition of approval as well. There's no special flood hazard area on the property, contains a single-family residence as well as an on-site wastewater treatment system and a 16 by 20 shop building. Lot C is also a zoned suburban residential district consisting of 1.5 acres. Takes access off of Morris Place, and it is within the Morris Place Road District. There's no special flood hazard area on the property, contains a single-family residence, an on-site wastewater treatment system, 17 by 32 detached garage, as well as a 30 by 40 shop building.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I move to approve layout plan LPL 20-7 with 11 conditions.
Have a second?
Second.
Commissioners, before you make
Troy?
that,
Okay.
I have one additional condition that I would like to have added.
Okay.
That came up in the review of this, and that has to do with that section line and that shed being within the right-of-way.
Okay.
I would like to add the condition that at the time of minor plat submittal, action be taken to bring the 8 by 12 shed located within the section line right-of-way into conformance with Pennington County zoning ordinance requirements.
Is that okay with that addition?
Yeah, I'll amend that motion to include 11 or 12 conditions.
I'm okay with
Troy?
it.
Okay. And then we do have the applicant, if you'd like to speak. Robert? They did approve this with, one more addition was to move the shed basically out of the right of way. You okay with that, sir?
Yeah, it's on metal skids. I got to hook onto a tractor and pull it out of there.
All righty. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jason.
Yes, ma'am.
Item E, please.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor. Item E is road construction within a section line right-of-way, CS 20-02 for Pat Wiederhold, is to construct a road within the section line right-of-way to provide access to property located in section 32. The applicant, Pat Wiederhold, has requested to construct this road. The proposed road will be 16 feet wide with 4 inches of gravel. Ditches will be 2 feet deep and sloped according to ordinance number 14 standards. There are 3 culverts that are 18 inches in diameter and 20 feet in length in the road. The road essentially is crossing the section line in 2 locations. As the property exists today, there are 2 tax parcels, both zone general agriculture district. One is 40 acres, one is 5 acres. There's no special flood hazard area on these properties. One of the parcels, the 5-acre parcel, does have a building permit for a single-family residence and garage. The proposed road construction consists of that it will cross the section line in 2 locations. The road width will be 36 feet wide for a distance of 32 feet. The gravel surface depth will be 4 inches, ditches in a depth of 2 feet, 3 culverts that are 20 feet long, again, and 18 inches in diameter, and the slopes will be steeper than 4-to-1 due to topography. They are requesting variances to ordinance 14 standards to not submit engineered road construction plans, to construct the road at 16 feet in lieu of 24 feet, and the road surface to be gravelled with 4 inches in lieu of 6 inches, and have the slope steeper than the 4-to-1, and to not construct a turnaround. This was routed around to the interdepartmental review process. The only item of concern came up from the county highway department. They did have concern with the slopes being at a 4-to-1. Based on their 16-foot top width and 20-inch long culvert, this is very steep and not recoverable if a vehicle goes off the road. Turnarounds are not provided for. The top width is not conducive to vehicles passing by at 16-foot width. But this is just crossing the section line. It's essentially providing a driveway to the property. Staff did perform a site visit. The road is already constructed, and staff is recommending approval to construct the road within a section line right-of-way, which includes constructing the section line right-of-way to County Ordinance 14 standards with 8 conditions.
Oh, Ms. Brittany.
Yes.
This is going to be a driveway for someone that's not going to be like used by many people based on the 4-to-1 slopes?
Correct. This is to access that 5-acre parcel for Mr. Wiederhold. The topography out there, the remaining portion of that section line, the topography is not such that it could be constructed upon. So they did have to like go around. If you look at this map, they had to go around that section line due to topography.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I would move to approve the road construction within the section line right away.
Second.
Moved by Roskinek, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Item F is a request to not submit engineered road construction plans, have a road width to be 16 feet wide instead of 24 feet, have a gravel surface depth of 4 inches instead of 6 inches, and to have slopes greater than 4 to 1, and to not construct a turnaround. The applicant is requesting these waivers to ordinance 14 standards for the construction of the road in the previous request.
Thank you. And the road right now is 16 inches wide, right?
16 feet wide, correct.
16 feet, 16 inches. I don't know where I got that.
Pretty thin road.
Madam Chair.
That'd be this right here.
So this would essentially be similar to the one that we looked at maybe a month ago out by Box Elder, and the one over by Rushmore subdivision off of Highway 40.
This is similar. The only difference in these is that they're just crossing the section line. They're not actually constructing in the section line.
With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve.
Moved by Ross Connect,
Second.
second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item 20G. Am I missing anybody for public comment yet? I think I've got all the requests.
Morning again, Commissioners. Jason Thennison. Agenda item G is road construction within a section line right-of-way. CS 20-03. The applicants are Renee and Randy Voss. The applicants Renee and Randy Voss are requesting to construct a driveway across the section line between sections 2 and 3. Township 1, Range 9, Black Hills Meridian, in order to access a future single-family residence. The proposed driveway will be 14 feet wide with a gravel base. This is the applicant's site plan. Heald Trail, you can see they're proposing to just build a driveway 14 feet wide across the section line. As the property sits today, it's planned unit development district consisting of 3.04 acres. Access is off of Heald Trail Road, or Heald Trail. There is special flood hazard area on the property, as you can see in blue on the screen. The applicant has stated that no construction will occur within a special flood hazard area. Currently, the property is vacant of all structures, and obviously it's got the section line dividing sections 2 and 3. The applicant is also requesting to waive ordinance 14 standards because this request is for a 14-foot driveway crossing the section line and not for a road to be considered for acceptance as a county road. I did do a site survey, and the applicant did have the proposed driveway lined out with some flags. For reference, this is where those flags were. So as you can see, his drawing was a little bit off, but it doesn't cross the special flood hazard area to access the future single-family residence. Heald Trail provides access to all the properties located within the Wheel Inn number 4 subdivision. Therefore, it is unlikely that this portion of the section line will ever be open for public use. The applicants intend to build a single-family residence on the property, and the proposed driveway will provide access to it.
Thank you, Jason. Do you have a motion or discussion?
Madam Chair.
Motion,
Jason, these are the lots out there by Horse Creek Inn, right?
That's correct, across the street, across 385.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ross Connect, second by LaCroy. Any discussion?
Question. Jason, relative to that flood area, I hadn't noticed that before, but is that actually restricted by this then from building in that? I know you said they said they wouldn't construct in that, but.
Rapid map is a little bit off here, so the property lines should be shifted a little to the north. So the portion of this property affected by special flood hazard area would actually be less. So his proposed construction where those flags are located and where he proposes to build his driveway, based on that, he would not be in the special flood hazard area.
Nice.
Okay, and it's definitive when you look at it.
Based on FEMA maps, yes, and where the flags were placed. Okay. Yeah, and the applicant knows it, and he's aware that if he does any construction within the special flood hazard area, that he'll need a floodplain development permit.
Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
All right, motion's been made. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. 20H.
Agenda item H is a follow-on to that one. This is for the applicant to waive ordinance 14 standards to build that 14-foot driveway. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, is there a
Move for
motion?
approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by Ross Connect. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item 20I. Miss anybody that needs to fill out a speaker request today? Just in case, okay.
All right, the next item is Plan Unit Development PU 1905 to rezone 20.8 acres from Highway Service District and General Agriculture District to a Plan Unit Development. The Planning Commission did approve this request with 23 conditions. The Board of Commissioners did approve the first reading of this on February 18th, 2020. The general description of this project will include rezoning 3 lots from Highway Service District and General Ag to a plan unit development to allow mixed-use development that will include duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, apartments, commercial businesses, and open space. At full build-out, the applicant anticipates 100 units, and the market will dictate the number of apartments and types of commercial businesses in this location. The plan unit development will be implemented in 2 phases and be identified as a Rockerville Goldtown PUD. The Rockerville Goldtown PUD will also include a major plan unit development amendment of PU 1906, which is a later agenda item. As the property stands today, most of the properties are vacant. There are some existing buildings on the properties that will be removed prior to this development. Section 213 under the plan unit development requirements, the intent of a plan unit development is to allow districts in which ingenuity, imagination, and design efforts on the part of the builders, architects, and site planners and developers can produce desirable residential developments. Staff feels that this proposed development does meet the requirements of a planned unit development. The Rockerville Goldtown PUD will include no more than 35 multifamily structures that will house 100 individual units, 2 3-story apartment buildings, and some commercial businesses along Main Street in Rockerville. Staff is recommending approval, taking Planning Commission's recommendation of the 23 conditions.
A motion or discussion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by Drews. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item J, please.
Item J is Comprehensive Plan Amendment CA 20-01 for Rockerville Goldtown LLC to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from Highway Service District to a plan unit development. This is the first reading of this. This was continued from the February meeting. So staff is recommending approval.
We have a motion or
Motion to
discussion?
approve.
Motion by Roskinick,
Second.
second by Drews. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item K.
Item K is first reading and public hearing of major plan unit development amendment PU 1906 for Rockerville Goldtown LLC, Pat Hall, Brian Hammerback as the agent, to amend an existing plan unit development to allow for townhomes, apartments, and commercial businesses in accordance with Section 213. Planning Commission did recommend approval with 23 conditions. This major plan unit development will change an existing planned unit development that is located in the corner along Rockerville Road and Main Street. This will, this proposed use on these lots will include commercial businesses, which will be neighborhood commercial. The proposed access will be off of Rockerville Road and Main Street, and it does meet the requirements of Section 213 of the Plan Unit Development, and staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Ms. Brittany is the Pennington County Drainage Engineer and Pennington County Fire Administrator. Is that on this one?
Yes.
So that's condition number 1?
No, condition number 1 on this one is that it would include up to 3 multifamily dwelling units and 2 3-story apartments and neighborhood commercial. It does, let me see which.
So where was this supposed to be added, the new?
That was actually item number 17, condition 17.
Today? On this,
Reads,
I mean on K?
yeah,
Okay.
it's on K and H, or J.
K and J?
Yes,
Is
the
this.
conditions are the same. The only conditions that are different are condition number 1. Condition number 1 on the previous one had had some different uses.
Okay, I think the commission has some questions on that, but
Okay.
Pat, did you want to speak first?
Thank you. My name's Pat Hall, and I appreciate you taking the time. Sorry for such a delay to get this to you, but I'm sure we're all aware of why there's been so many delays. But we've hired several consultants, and I've had some people do some reviews of state law and of the International Building Code, and then the county regulations. And what I'm proposing, and then maybe we have questions from the commissioners. I had called early yesterday to speak to the fire coordinator, and he was, I'm sure, so busy, didn't get a chance to call me back. I just spoke with him out in the hallway. It was a little hard to go through our definitions and interpretations of the different definitions, but maybe we'll be able to answer those. But what I want to ask, and I believe the commission has the authority to do, is that you would consider to allow us do some things out here on this project. What I want to tell you is, number one, we have an application in for our sewer system. We're waiting for the county to give us approval. The state has approved it. The county has been out and inspected the sewer soils. They said we were in good shape to do a septic tank and drain field. However, we're going to do a mound system. I'm sure you're aware that a mound system is a little better protection and more expensive. That's not required. I want to do that because I want this to be a good project for our county, and I want it to be safe. Now, the next issue that I would like to discuss is the fire protection. And I believe, and if we have attorneys get involved before they get committed on the record, I'd rather have them talk with each other to see if they can't resolve it. You know how it works, how that works. And I haven't been able to have contact with the fire coordinator. I think it clearly, by statute, International Building Code, defines a unit that I'm building, which is four or less units, and mine are fourplexes. I have firewalls on the units that I have a letter from TSP that tells you they're rated at 3 hours and 10 minutes or 3 hours and 20 minutes, I've forgotten. But the only requirement from the International Building Code on firewalls is 2 hours. So again, safety is where I'm trying to come from. So what the county has set as a precedence for that, if by definition, each one of my units is a single family unit in a fourplex. Now, I can assure you, you tax them as they are a single family unit. Each of those units pays a separate real estate tax, just like a house does, okay? And the definition as I interpret it, which I believe I'm really correct, is state statute and International Building Code says that these units are single-family units within one building. So what I'm asking you to do then, if the requirements for water flow as precedence has been set according to the letter I received from the fire, I'm sorry, I don't remember the right term. I'm going to call him fire marshal for lack of a better
Fire
expression.
administrator.
Yeah. Well, there's a purpose for me saying marshal. Okay. Anyhow, it says that we have to have 1,000 gallons of water storage for a period of 30 minutes. That would be 30,000 gallons of water. Now, in other counties, that would be Minnehaha, Lincoln County, Lawrence County, it's my understanding that that requirement is considered, and I'll use Lincoln and Minnehaha County as examples, and I can give you the name of the planner that I talked to. And what that planner said to me is, we find to make that whole water storage capacity in a rural area is burdensome, overly burdensome on a builder or a developer. So what we do is we either negotiate or participate in that storage. I'm not asking you to do either. Not asking you to negotiate or to participate if my definition is correct and the 30,000 gallons is what is required. I will build 30,000 gallons. I started out thinking of building 10,000 and going through and ending up with the 30,000 at the end. I've listened to some of the commissioners that have shared to me. I've listened to other people. 30,000 is a safety factor. I will spend that extra money. And I am not asking the county to participate or to negotiate, if my definition is correct. I'm going to build 30,000 gallons of storage. I will also put hydrants in, standard to what the county requires, which I believe is right at 500 feet, so that the fire department can pull up and hook up to the hydrants and fight it, just like it would in the city. Now, as taxpayers, we've paid, and you'd give money to fire halls. We have one of the best volunteer fire departments on Highway 16, which in talking with the fire chief, Gail Schmidt, she said that if there was a notice of a fire, she could be at our place in 15 minutes, at this development in 15 minutes. They have, in addition to the 30,000 gallons that I'm proposing, they have 60,000 gallons of water storage at that fire station and a well that will replenish. They have 2 tanker wagons, one at that particular volunteer fire department and at the other volunteer fire department that they have, which is on the Cut Across Road. So I believe I'm going to have excellent, worst case scenario, we've got excellent fire protection. We have gone beyond the fire protection requirements that were put in the previous plan that we were advised to use when we started this project. And so with that being said, in my belief that statute says that the commissioners can make adjustments to what the fire coordinators or other people request if it makes sense for rural areas. So I'm asking you to do that because I believe it makes sense. And again, I feel bad that I hadn't had a chance to talk with the fire coordinator, but I did call yesterday at 8 o'clock in the morning, hadn't had a chance to visit with him. So I've had 2 experiences. One, I got a letter from him the night before we had a chance to make our original presentation, and now I haven't had a chance to visit again to go over definitions to see if there's really any issues or common ground.
Thank you, Pat. You have,
I think that's all there is, and if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Madam Chair.
hold on just a sec, Ross, Commissioner. So Pat Hall, item 17 is the Pennington County Drainage Engineer and Pennington County Fire Administration improve the central water system for the PUD that will serve the water needs for the development and for the fire protection. Also, number 18, the entire water system must be fully operational by the time the fourth building permit for multifamily dwelling is submitted or when 25 people are residing in the PUD, which includes the area located in both PUD 1905 and PUD 1906 or prior to the issuance of a commercial building permit. So you're asking to change those conditions to what?
The condition as you read it, it says, I think makes reference to the fire coordinator's stipulations. And So what I'm recommending that you change that to is 30 gallons, 30,000 gallons of storage. I'm not sure what his definition is of what's required for storage. As I understood it, he wanted 180,000 gallons of storage, and in addition to that, wanted it to be a separate amount of storage for fighting fire. Not practical, I believe, state law, but I'm not certain because I haven't had a chance to visit. But that's what I'm asking for, and I think in answer to your question is I want to do 30,000 gallons of storage, and that's what I believe the requirement is.
Okay, so that's stipulation 17, 18. If that's gonna be done, we need to, ask Brittany basically what you need to put on there. Brittany, so what, if you made a motion to that effect, tell me on those two stipulations, what would it read and, how would that work?
On number 18, that actually has to do with the drinking water requirements. So when there's 25 people residing, that central water system has to be approved by the state, and that has to be in place. It's item number 17 that would be in question. It's the fire administrators approved the central water system.
So 18 would be okay, but,
Yes,
because that's normal, right?
Right. The number 17 is the one that has the fire requirements.
And who's the Pennington County Drainage Engineer?
Right now, it's Bill Welk until June.
Okay,
But that is for the drainage study for number 4.
okay, so
So number
Pat, you're okay
17
with the
is,
drainage study still? Because that's,
Yes, the drainage study calls for 10% coverage on a lot.
right, anytime you go over 15%
Yeah.
of
and-
impervious area.
And I'm under 15%. If you take 25 acres and my coverage is 4,300 square feet, that's under 15%.
so we would just, if they approved it, they would take out the county fire administration approval? If that's what they wanted, or, well,
So they had submitted a fire plan in the packet. There's a proposed Rockerville Fire Protection Plan.
right,
So if you wanted to approve that as they requested versus what the fire administrator requirement was for sprinklers and 15,000 gallons of storage.
he said 30,
And he's gonna do 30.
He's saying 30.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, okay.
So it would be 180,000 without sprinklers is what
Okay.
Jerome was.
Okay. Was saying,
yes.
okay.
So how do we deal with 17? We'd be able to add 30,000 in there as our,
Yep, let's hear from Jerome. Okay,
Yes, I want to make sure that I was clear.
okay,
That is with no sprinkler systems.
Yeah.
That's what, and I'd like to also share with you that the first building we built, no sprinkler systems. I got a permit were required.
okay, and we had that, I don't know if you guys know this, but we approved I and J with
Yep.
we'd have to change those stipulations if that's
Correct.
what we're gonna do today on item I and J, so we'd have to go back and rescind that. Fire administrator, what's your name?
Jerome Harvey, Pennington County Fire Administrator. How can I help the commission today? What do you need? What can I help you with?
Well, you have to tell us why we'd have to have, what is your recommendation?
The recommendation that was put together with Ms. Mumler, she put together a recommendation that was based on a meeting that we had with Mr. Hall's representatives. And there was 2 options that were given to Mr. Hall. One is to put sprinklers into the buildings, and then he'd only have to have between, my calculations would be 37.5, but come out to, the discussion has been 30,000 gallons. If he doesn't do sprinklers, our recommendation would be then he would have to go to a larger volume of water because the sprinkler heads are not there to suppress the fire immediately. You cannot take into account the water supply being hauled in to suppress the fire. Yes, there is water available at the fire station on Highway 16, but that cannot be put into the suppression calculations. And then when the people are applying for the insurance for their own property, that's where the burden gets shifted from the building itself, from the builders, developers, the person that owns the property over long term. So the suppression of the building, suppression of the fire in the building is based on water that's available the right away. The other thing with any water system, you can never calculate that. It's not like 30,000 gallons is sitting there all the time. The system is constantly under demand. So without any calculations based on, there's no way to tell if there's 15,000 gallons or 25,000 gallons, what are the system demand is at all the time. So you're probably looking between 15,000 gallons probably available to suppress the fire that's there. That's a rough guess without any proper calculations.
Madam Chair.
So why would you have them do 180,000? I mean, does,
That would be the recommendation that was made in the discussion with the two gentlemen that represented Mr. Hall and Mr. Mollier. If they went without sprinklers, they would need a larger volume of water, such as we see in the other parts of the county.
so the other parts of the county, the urban area or the rural areas do have that kind of water?
There's one, just the one that comes to mind is right off the top of my head is one that's right outside of New Underwood, and they have probably over 200,000, 225,000 gallons available to them. But those are buildings without sprinklers in them.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
Jerome, explain why we cannot include the water storage at the fire department into the calculation.
That's the water calculations never include that. That water all has to come in on wheels, and that's a minimum of a 20-minute turnaround under good all weather roads under good weather conditions. I've never seen that where they calculate the water supply that's available for transport like that into the suppression or the protection of the building itself. That would be going out of every standard that I'm familiar with.
And primarily that's because the ability to get that water there could be interrupted by some manner, whether it be weather or a broken down truck or a car broken down in the middle of the road or anything like that.
Anytime you take on water shuttle operations, especially in the 16 corridor, that raises that whole event up. It makes it a big risk. So your search agents will never calculate that I'm familiar with.
So if a house gets on fire, then how much gallons do you calculate for a house to take in order to suppress that fire?
Well, it's based, you can use the Iowa calculation or use the National Fire Academy calculations. It determines the amount of water that you can actually put onto the fire for the volume. Remember, in his situation here, ideally a 15-minute response time by our volunteers, that would be a perfect response. That's not real world. You can't think about the fire when it's in the incipient stage as far as when the fire starts. You got to think about what's going to be 15 minutes to get there, 5 minutes to deploy, what the fire is going to be doing at that time. Stop the fire right where it's at.
So how many gallons does it take to put out one house?
Well, you're looking anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 gallons worth of flow, gallons per minute worth of flow. So you're easily looking 15 to 30,000 gallons to suppress one structure fire, everything being perfect.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Jerome, when you look at Pat's development out there, do you see one building or do you see 4 individual units?
Well, if you look at it, it's all one building. Yes, he's done a nice job with the firewalls. The foundation doesn't calculate into whether it's concrete or otherwise. It doesn't matter with that. He's doing a nice job. He's got a nice property he's putting together. The code looks at it as each individual unit, because each individual unit is a building unit itself. The fire is not expected, as long as the walls are put together properly, there's not penetrations into the firewall, the fire is expected to stay within the compartment. That's what we want to do. We don't want it to spread to the adjacent compartments next to where the fire starts.
Most of the hotels that I appraised, and I appraised a lot of franchise hotels, they have firewalls. And they're rated, if I recall, most of them are rated at 2 hours.
Right.
I went out and looked at Pat's just so that I can touch and feel, understand what we're dealing with here. I went out there and I talked to the contractor, and I was looking at the interior of Unit 1, and I said, now if I put a tape measure through this wall and I go to Unit 2, how thick will that be? Because you can't tell by just going inside. You just see finished sheetrock. He started saying, well, by the time he got done, we were just about at 12 inches. And so I believe that was rated at 3.5 hours. So to me, there's got to be some consideration taken for those firewalls.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
and if the better the firewall, the less water supply. That was just me.
Yeah, I think what it was put together in the meetings that were held with Brittany and the other two gentlemen here, the sprinkler option with the water is what was recommended as his first option. They didn't have a problem with it. It's up to this board to decide what you guys want to do.
My only concern is that this county needs to be a little more proactive in working with developers. I hear people going to Meade County and other counties because we're so hard to work with. So I think we need to recognize that as well.
Jerome? Anything? Any questions for Jerome?
Madam Chair, I have a question for
Commissioner LaCroix, thank you,
Pat.
Jerome.
The way everything's written here, Pat, is that the Pennington County, this seems to be the hang-up right now, is the Pennington County Drainage Engineer and Pennington County's Fire Administrator approve the central water system. I think we could approve this whole thing, but we have, that's where we're, at a later date, would have to work out. Unless you're looking for that 30,000 gallon approval right now, I don't know where the commission's, how that motion would go. Brittany, I would need your help if that was the case, but that seems to be the hangup, because then we'd have to go back and change the other ones. Brittany, say they can't come up with an agreement. Can they come back and can we have this discussion? Can we approve this today and come back if there's a problem, work this out, that one item? Because this comes back as the fourth building's built.
Oh, that's number 18, but for number 17, the way it stands right now, the fire administrator, he has provided his recommendations, which was for the sprinklers. You could change that, the Board of Commissioners approve. They could come back at a later
Fire
date once the
protection
design is done and the fire protection plan is in place, and present that to you guys as part of this request at a later date, and have you guys approve that fire protection plan based on their water system design and whatever they put in place for fire protection.
So
Madam Chair.
just a question. So you're having 100 units, right, Pat? And they're all firewalled?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then you have wells plus the 30,000 storage?
Well, we have wells that, yes, in addition, 2 wells, and actually a third well. But primarily we'll use the 2 wells. Third well will be a backup.
Okay, so you have,
And each of those 2 wells is 20 gallons a minute, so it's 40 gallons a minute of water. Unbelievable amount of water with no drawdown after a test for 2 hours.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
question for Michelle Hoffman. How are you, Michelle?
Good, how are you?
Good. My question for you is, what is our liability if we approve this and we've had a recommendation from our fire administrator and we approve it with less than the recommendation that we have from our fire administrator? What's the liability that the county would hold if there was a fire incident and a loss of life as a result of a lack of water supply?
I think the first primary concern is to make sure that this body follows the ordinances as they currently are written. I do not believe these fire codes are, as of yet, incorporated into our ordinances. I do believe that's something we will be looking forward to. In response to your liability, as long as we follow those rules, I think that limits our liability. That doesn't mean that we would not be sued. I can't predict what a jury would do, but I think that's the most important thing. But I also do think Jerome is the expert. It would behoove us to at least consider his concerns.
Thank you.
Board?
Kind of got lost with, I'd like to make a motion, but I wasn't clear on what Brittany suggestion on that.
Basically, she's saying the Pennington County Drainage Engineer, and then basically the fire protection plan for the planned unit development that will serve the water needs for the development for fire protection.
So I'd add item 24.
Nope, you take out.
So you would, you would amend 17. Because right now, as it stands, the fire administrator approve, what he's recommending would be the fire sprinklers with the 37,000 gallons of storage. So that's where he's at right now. So one of two things would have to happen if they can't agree on what that fire protection plan is. The applicants would have to come back in front of you and ask for an amendment to that condition, or you could make that amendment now to say that, you know, in the instance, or you guys actually approve what that fire protection plan is.
Okay. So,
Versus what Jerome is recommending. Because what Jerome is recommending, the way that I read this condition is that that's what he's recommending. He's recommending the fire sprinkler systems, and that's going to be the plan he approves at this time.
okay. So he could come back and with an amendment, Mr. Hall can, if he sits down after today and they try to work something out, if they can't, Jerome's already, fire administrator's already given his recommendation. If they can't compromise, he can come back and ask for an amendment.
Correct, and he can
Okay.
propose a fire protection plan, and this board could approve that fire protection plan as a condition of this
Okay.
PUD.
So, Mr. Hall, that's my next question.
So he's
I still have
basically,
the floor.
I know Lloyd, he's basically saying
I got a question for Pat.
37, well, I'm trying to explain something. Fire administrator saying 37,000 gallons per minute, Pat saying 30. You're saying have them come back and work out between 37,000 and 30,000? I guess I'm trying to
Mr.
ask
Hall.
you that.
Mr. Hall, are you okay with trying to do an amendment afterwards?
I couldn't hear you, Lloyd, sorry.
Are you okay if we approve everything today as is and you can't come to an agreement with the recommendation? Because I just got the recommendations yesterday, read through them. But this would give you a chance to try and work out a deal. If you couldn't, are you okay with coming back with an amendment? Or are you looking to solve that problem here today?
I'd like to try to solve it here today. I've spent enough time trying to correct it, and maybe the fire coordinator feels the same way. I've tried to explain state statute and the International Building Code, which statute for the state of South Dakota says that you, as commissioners, have to follow. And by definition and the precedents, there's nothing that I can find in state law that says there has to be fire extinguishers in a unit that is built like ours. And so I disagree with the fact that he says, one, in big, bold red letters, there has to be fire extinguishers in every unit. I disagree with that.
Fire sprinklers. Then.
Sprinkler, my apologies. Sprinkler system.
Madam Chair.
Hold on, Lloyd has a follow-up. Go ahead, Lloyd.
No, he's giving me the information.
Okay.
And you have the power, statute says you have the power to make those decisions. And I can't speak to liability, but my understanding is if the county commission makes exceptions to any rule, they don't have liability in making those exceptions.
Commissioner Roskinek.
South Dakota Codified Law 101339, classification of owner-occupied single-family dwelling. Each owner-occupied single-family dwelling in this state is specifically classified for the purpose of taxation. For the purposes of this section, an owner-occupied single-family dwelling is a house, condominium, apartment, residential housing consisting of 4 or less family units, townhouse, townhome, housing cooperatives where membership in the cooperative is strictly limited to the stockholder occupants of the building. Dwelling is classified in 101339. Highlighted, no ordinance may require that any fire sprinkler be installed in a single-family dwelling.
Madam Chair.
Are you done, Commissioner Roskinek?
Yes.
So I don't miss somebody again. Santo, Commissioner?
I understand, Ron, that it does state that. However, it doesn't state how much of a water supply needs to be on hand as a code. There's nothing in here anywhere that states how much of a water supply needs to be on hand if sprinklers are not installed.
Commissioner DeSanto, I think it does say that the state says they have adapted the International Building Code. And if you go to the International Building Code, which the state says they've adopted, it defines the units that I'm trying to build, I believe, to have the water code. And then I'll have Mr. Bell tell you where that's at. Step up here, Doug, if you would.
Pat,
And
I would be much more comfortable
yeah,
if I
go ahead, Doug, speak to
heard
that.
from the International Building Code that there was a specific reserve of water, what their recommendation is.
Sir, your name?
Doug Bell. I work for Pat Hall in development and construction. International Building Code Appendix B, fire flow requirements for buildings under Section B105. And the title of that is Fire Flow Requirements for Buildings. In B105.1, it says 1 and 2 family dwellings, Group R3 and R4 buildings, and townhouses. The minimum fire flow and flow duration requirements for 1 and 2 family dwellings, Group R3 and R4 buildings, and townhomes shall be as specified in Tables B 105.1. Under 105.1, required fire flow for 1 and 2 family dwelling units, Group R3 and R4 buildings, and townhouses. Fire flow calculation area 0 to 3,600 square feet. Now, this, I think, is where the definitions have to get clarified. We look at each one of these units as a single-family dwelling unit. I believe that Jerome is going to say that he's looking at the entire building. If our buildings are about 4,300 square feet, if we follow a single-family unit with the firewalls constructed per UL, United Laboratories, and also clarified by the code, which I can read to if you want, on double wall construction, we believe we have 4 single-family dwelling units within the building. That also matches up to the state law, which we read earlier to you, which basically defined for taxation purposes what Mr. Roskinek read to us. In that 0 to 3,600, no automatic sprinkler systems are required, and there has to be a minimum fire flow of 1,000 gallons per minute for a 1-hour duration. Okay, when we go 3,600 square feet and greater, which I think is what Jerome will be talking about, that building exceeds 3,600. For us, we look at each one of the units as single-family dwelling units with properly constructed firewalls. Again, no automatic sprinkler system is required in the International Building Code. Now they have a different situation on the value. We have to go to another table called B105.12 for the minimum fire flow for a building that exceeds, or a single-family dwelling, as we view it, exceeds, is greater than 3,600 square feet. Again, our single-family dwelling units range in size from about 1,300 to 1,600 square feet. The overall building size, though, is 4,300 square feet. So there are no automatic sprinkler systems, and then we have to go to the table where we have 22,700 square feet or less, which we're not even close to. And in that table, they require 1,500 square feet or 1,500 gallons for a 2-hour period. That, I think, is where Jerome comes up with his calculations. So the issue is state law says we're single-family dwelling units. International Building Code talks about townhomes and single-family units also. So the question really comes down, are we building 4 single-family units, or are we building one big multifamily building? And I think that's where we get crosswise on our definitions.
Madam Chair.
Mr. DeSanto?
It is my understanding, as we're speaking, judging by the way that these buildings are being described, that with the firewalls, that we are actually building 4 separate units.
Correct.
However, you still haven't read me. If we consider each one of those a separate unit, what's the gallon flow per minute that we need for one of those units? Because we need to multiply that times 4.
That would be, if it was
1,000.
less than 3,600 square feet, it's a 1 hour or
1,000 gallon a
1,000
minute for
gallons
1
for
hour.
1 hour. Okay,
60,000 gallons,
right,
and we're asking for 30.
correct. Now, I will tell you that one of the reasons why we asked for 30 is that in the letter that we received to the planning department on February 14th, Mr. Harvey constructed this letter. He talks in here about that the 1,000 gallons per minute has been also set as a precedent by the Pennington County Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners. So we use that in our development of our thought process as to what our fire flow would be required to be. So he also, in fairness, in the item above that, describes 1,000 gallons per minute for fire flow, but he talks again about exceeding 3,600 square feet. And so the definition is, for us, state law says single-family dwelling unit. We know that our square footages are 1,300 to approximately 1,600 square feet for our dwelling units. We know we've met the firewall. We have a letter from TSP. We have documentation from UL that we have a 3-hour and 20-minute firewall assembly. So we feel like we've done it. We've also considered actually pouring a concrete wall vertically, so there'd be absolutely no question, there'd be nothing combustible in that entire wall. So that's an option that we could probably look at.
And I don't know anything about building costs, or not much anyway. Would it be more cost appropriate or cost effective to build that cement wall than it would be to put sprinklers in?
The answer to that is it doesn't give you any more fire time protection.
It doesn't.
So I chose to build this. I may in the future try the parapet wall through the ceiling, but I prefer, because I've done this in the past, to build the 3-hour wall in the fashion I'm doing it.
Well, Pat, I wouldn't, I mean, if
Sure.
if
No,
it
you
doesn't,
ask a
if it
good
doesn't
question.
improve the fire retardancy, then
No,
what's the point?
No, it's just, yeah, if it doesn't improve the fire retardant, the point is, if you're meeting the requirement on both walls, then the answer would be which wall is the least expensive to build.
Sure.
I believe the concrete or block wall is less expensive to build.
Okay.
But I prefer, I'm not building a block home, so I prefer to make it frame.
Sure, I get you. Okay, thank you.
I have one question. So we're doing a PUD and I don't, there's a state law, isn't there? The entire water system must be fully operational. And I remember the 25 rule, once you have 25 people or more. We've had other PUDs. And I don't remember these requirements. Are we changing our requirements in PUDs, Brittany, by chance? Because isn't the water system run by the state?
It is, the other PUD that's similar to this, like in size and the number of units, is Canyon Springs. And that does have a similar requirement. They do have a central water system up there, also.
So that it has how much per, I mean, is it 1,000 gallons per minute? What is the requirement through the state?
For drinking water, it's different. They look at how many houses are connected, so there's 15 units or 25 people. Then they do have to have an operator, they do have to do water quality sampling, and such, but it's under the Safe Drinking Water Act. That's a different rule,
Right.
than what the fire flow is.
Yeah, this is completely
Thank you.
separate.
Correct.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinen.
Brittany, can I ask you a question? Can you give me an idea of the last 2 or 3 buildings that were constructed in Pennington County outside of Rapid City or any other municipality that sprinkler system was required, just so I can get a touch and feel on this?
Sure. There's only 2 subdivisions in the past that we have required, or the board planning commission has recommended and required sprinkler systems be in. There is a portion of Canyon Springs up off of Nemo Road. On that top portion up there, they did require sprinklers. And then Harney Mountain Estates, which is off of Old Hill City Road, those homes, several of those homes did require
And what type of
sprinklers.
structures are those?
Single-family residences.
And roughly how large would those be?
I know Canyon Springs has a minimum 18-foot or 1,800 square foot footprint, so most of those are at 3,600. You know, they're
And do you know what they
ranch.
have for water reservoirs?
Canyon Springs does have their own water system, and they do have a reservoir up on the top, I think east side of I'm not sure
That
how large it
reservoir,
is.
is that for sprinkler system or is it for drinking water?
It's for their drinking water system and their fire protection.
Thank you.
Mr. Harvey?
Commissioner Rosknecht, the residential sprinkler systems that they talk about, because of the problems with water supply in those areas, pressure, et cetera, are self-contained within the structure itself. It does not use the external water supply at all.
Questions or discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I'm inclined to go with Pat Hall's recommendation and allow the construction.
So yours would be the Pennington County Drainage Engineer and on the plan,
To accept his
Fire-
plan of 30,000 gallons.
his fire protection plan for 30,000 gallons per minute. That
Second.
will serve the water's needs for the development and for fire protection.
Madam Chair.
Hold on just a sec. There's a motion
And second.
and a second. Commissioner DeSanto, please.
Just to correct you, that's not 30,000 gallons a minute. That's a 30,000 gallon reservoir.
Right.
Reservoir, sorry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
Clarification from Brittany.
that'd be
on-
number 17, so you would agree with all the conditions, except you'd change number 17, sir,
Correct.
okay?
Madam Chair, I would just like to just clarify, they did submit a proposed fire protection plan dated 3/9/2020. For our purposes, for the PUD, for something to follow, could we incorporate that, their fire protection plan as they proposed?
You okay with
Would
that?
that be
This has been the one that's been proposed by,
correct, the applicant? There's 10 items on this fire protection plan that they had proposed.
Okay, so that would go in the motion on number 17.
Yes.
Okay, and then we
Then
do,
that way I have something to follow.
I'm
okay,
okay
then,
with that.
and
yeah,
then,
Pat, is that?
I'm not sure.
It's this one.
I need to be briefed here. Would
Sure.
you give me a moment?
Sure.
and then
Go ahead,
if we
tell
do
me.
change number 17, we have to change item
Go back and do I, J.
I and J with the same stipulation on 17.
I think, I don't know why, wouldn't it?
Well, that's what we have. Doug, you're doing the construction, so I want to ask you a question.
I think it's okay.
That you had agreed to those before.
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
I
sir.
just want
Just
to
checking.
clarify.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the moment.
Madam Chair.
We're doing
Yes, sir.
hired water.
The entire square footage of the building, including 3 apartments, is 4,600 square feet? 4,300 square feet? Okay.
Thank you. That is correct. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'm agreeable to changing the motion to that.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
you're okay?
too.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed?
Nay.
One no with Commissioner DeSanto on the change on,
Madam
Or-
Chair,
Thank you for taking the time, Commissioners.
okay.
I
Commissioner
would,
Drews.
I would make a motion that we go back to items I and J, make the same language change.
It's just item I. Item J was a comprehensive plan amendment, so that
Okay.
didn't have any conditions.
So do we have
Second.
to do what to change it, Ellie?
Motion to reconsider, aye.
Motion to reconsider aye.
So move.
Moved by
Second.
Drews, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, now I
Item
would
I.
make the motion that the language be consistent with I as it is then with K for number 17.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries with one no. Thank you, Commissioner DeSanto. Okay, we are on item L, Ms. Brittany. Kara, did you get all that?
No, but I'll just have to re-listen to it.
I and L
I didn't
got
think you
changed
did.
to
I
17.
Listen to
know
the
that,
recording.
Thank you.
The applicant for this one will be via phone.
Okay, and that's Mike and Dennis. Are they the same? Are they together? Brittany? Do you know if Mike and Dennis are together?
They're separate.
I doubt it, yeah.
Okay, because there's a Michael's.
Right, Michael's,
Steve, he's actually in the
Oh, he's in the audience.
Okay, there's a
audience.
Michael that goes with Mr. Steele, and then there's a Mike.
Mike Alley,
Dennis
who's
on the phone.
Yeah, he's the realtor, Mike Alley.
So
he's
there's-
local, right?
So Mike Alley's on there, and then Dennis is on there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's separate from Mike, I can't read his last name, and Jason Steele. So those two are together.
Yeah.
2 and 2, okay.
All right, good morning, Christina Proetti. Item L is Major Planned Unit Amendment 20-01. We're revisiting this. This is to amend an existing planned unit development to allow an existing 3-bedroom, single-family residence to be used as a vacation home rental.
Gal's got to mute her phone on the.
They've got to mute their phones, Jill. Mike and Dennis.
Oh, Mike and Dennis, please remember to mute your phone while someone is presenting.
Did you hear that, Mike and Dennis? Hello?
We don't hear very well.
Okay, you just have to mute your phones, otherwise we get an echo in our commission office or our commission chambers. Thank you.
Yeah, I am muted.
Thank you.
All right, that sounds good. All right, the subject property is currently zoned as a planned unit development with approximately 3.86 acres. Access is taken off of South Rochford Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the property. The lot contains 1 single-family residence with a loft and deck and 1 detached garage. The applicant has complied with all of the application submittal requirements for vacation home rental for section, as listed in the Pennington County zoning ordinance, section 319. The South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources approved the vacation home rental for a maximum overnight occupancy of 6 persons. Section 213D of the Pennington County zoning ordinance states that a preliminary planned unit development application shall be submitted for consideration by the Planning Commission to allow for notice procedures set forth under section 512 amendments. Upon submission for a preliminary plan of a sufficient scope to permit preliminary approval, a formal application for approval of a planned unit development shall be filed. The application must include consent by owners of all property to be included in the planned unit. The application must be accompanied by a site plan and written statement. Staff has received comments back from the 2 surrounding neighbors, and neither neighbors are in favor of the proposed vacation home rental. Staff is actually seeking guidance from the commissioners on how to proceed with this PUD. Staff recommends conditions be included if you do choose to approve.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the applicant, which is Dennis Tushin. Dennis? Do you have your realtor with you, Mike Alley, Dennis, or is he speaking separately?
Yes, Mike Kelly is on this call also.
Okay, thank you.
I'll see if he has any comments at the end. So we're requesting a VHR within a planning unit development section 13 and 319 of the zoning ordinance. This is a permitted use. It may be a permitted use. I understand that goes back to what the covenants say. Our covenant states that the property shall be for residential use only, single-family housing, and no home occupation. As far as covenants, that's pretty much all that applies here. There are other things in there as far as how the colors of the properties, they stick built and things like that that don't apply. What seems to be a question here from last week's meeting is the term residential use. I want to go back to last week's Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission voted to deny our request last Monday with 1 yes vote and the remaining no votes. The votes were persuaded by Michelle Sanders and her statement that our property had to look at the covenants that were in place in 2005, which would override the law that was changed in 2012 that allowed VHRs in the PUD. Michelle stated that it was her opinion, and she had no facts to back her opinion, but her opinion was that when the PUD was drawn up, she believed that it was the developer's intent that the term residential was meant to mean no VHRs within the PUD, and that even though the majority of jurisdictions say that VHRs are a residential use and some do not, and Michelle also stated that the South Dakota courts have not made a judgment on what residential use is defined as for us. Hang on one second. Jim from the Planning Commission, who voted in our favor, stated that his interpretation of residential use is one family at a time using the property. Prior to our planning meeting, I'd watched videos of the commission meetings going back almost 2 years. And in many of them, statements that VHRs are residential use is stated many times throughout the recording. But I wanted to go back to the recordings from February 24th. On February 24th, Planning Commission meeting in particular, Michelle Sanders states at the 18-minute and 40-second mark of that recording, and I have her quoted as stating, VHRs are viewed as residential use, and the actual use is people residing in the home. And again, at the 55-minute and 20-second mark, Michelle states, there is no difference between short and long-term rentals. A VHR is not a commercial use, so is not a home occupation. Short-term and long-term rentals are both residential use. And if you continue to the 50-minute and 6-second mark of the recording, she states that a VHR's use is residential and not commercial. And finally, at the 1 hour and 45-minute and 30-second mark, Michelle states that unless covenants exclusively excluded VHRs, then the covenants are not enforced by the county. Now, there's nowhere in our covenants that say VHRs are exclusively not allowed. Now, when I asked Michelle why her statements from February 24th commission meeting contradicted what she was stating last Monday, she stated again that it was her opinion that the intent of the developers' use of the term residential when the PUD was created was intended to mean no VHRs. So when it came down to the actual vote, the Planning Commission asked Michelle how they were supposed to vote. She proceeded to tell them that based on her opinion that she believed the intent of residential was to mean no VHRs, that they should not vote in favor of allowing a VHR. Now I want to go back to the time that I made my offer on this property, which was in 2005, and purchased it, and show you that Ralph Corey had no intent of the term residential, meaning no VHRs, or Ralph would have made that very clear at that time. Ralph was a developer and was looking to build these cabins and find a buyer. He wasn't looking to restrict who would be interested in buying his properties by adding restrictive covenants. He was actually forced to create the properties as a PUD against his intent by the county because they didn't want two separate approaches coming off the South Rochford Road. We made our offer to purchase the property on July 8th of 2005, and it was with the contingency that there could be no restrictions against doing VHRs on the property before we would purchase the land. Now, Mike Alley was Ralph's realtor, and my wife and myself were in Mike's office the day we made the offer. Mike did a search on Rapid Map with me and my wife looking over his shoulder and pulled it up on the map. And at that time, it showed, and this is only on the computer, that it showed it was zoned as agricultural. And so we proceeded with our offer. Ralph accepted our offer with the contingency and his confirmation that VHRs were allowed. We were not aware until the morning we closed on the property that the property had actually been rezoned to a PUD, and that had happened in January that year. We did not find out that until I was presented the paperwork that morning. At that time, it appeared that it still hadn't been updated on the computer system, because that morning we still pulled up the property on the computer system that morning, and it still showed as being zoned agricultural. So although the paperwork had been filed, it had not been updated on the computer. So at that point, I was ready to walk out and pull my offer on the property. But Ralph and Mike convinced me that there were no covenants restricting the VHRs. Ralph told me that it was his intent to leave the property all as agricultural when he developed them. And he was forced to create the PUD. So he did so with the bare minimum in his PUD, stating it's single family, is residential, and no home occupations. And he formed the association for the maintenance of the driveway only. He originally had separate driveways in place when he began developing the property, and he had to take them out and make one shared driveway. But although the old driveway's eroded a lot, you can still see where he had the original driveway going to Jason Steele's property that the county made him remove when he did this as a PUD. So it was definitely his intent not to create a PUD. So now, when I purchased the property, Ralph was in the process of building his first cabin, which Jason Steele owned, and that was the first one of the 3 properties. I built my own cabin, did all the work myself next door to him. Ralph and I worked side by side. We assisted each other. We did a lot to help each other over the next year, sharing tools and helping each other out. Ralph decided to incorporate a lot of log accents into the second cabin he built. His workers didn't really know how to peel bark off logs, so I showed him how to do that. I helped him a lot with that. So Ralph and I got to know each other pretty well. I did a lot of work with Ralph. I heard a lot about how he acquired the properties and how he developed them and how he was well aware of my interest in doing rentals. And he had been trying to help him find a buyer for his third cabin when he completed that as well. With all that said, there's no possible way that Ralph ever intended when he created the planned unit development that there was any intent of not allowing rentals. And Ralph intended for the term residential use in the covenants to mean that VHRs were not allowed. It's just not possible. He was well aware of my intent, and that when we purchased the property, he made it very clearly that he was in favor of rentals.
Okay, Dennis, I think we got that.
Just up the road.
Michelle is,
Ralph's biggest concern
Dennis.
is keeping the properties looking nice.
Dennis.
No abandoned vehicles or trash.
Dennis.
At many times that
Dennis, we have Michelle here. She wants to speak on some of the things that you had talked about.
Okay, I'm just about to finish. You can just give me one more minute. Okay? Many times that people are not doing rentals always have well-maintained properties for the appearance of their guests. Yeah, can I complete? I want to read the letter that Mike Alley sent, and then we can go to Michelle.
It's in our packet, sir.
Yeah.
Does anybody need him to read the letter?
No.
We're okay without the letter. We've read it already, sir, so we're going to let Michelle speak, Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hadcock. Michelle Hoffman, State's
Michelle.
Attorney's Office.
Sorry, ma'am. Will you bring so he can hear you?
Okay, thank you.
Dennis, can you hear Michelle? Michelle, you want to speak?
Michelle Hoffman, State's Attorney's Office.
I can hear her. Let me put my phone on mute.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Commissioner Hadcock. I first would like to address several misstatements. When directly asked by Mr. Tushin with regard to statements concerning the definition of residential use under covenants, I very clearly stated that although the quotations were correct, they were missing, they were taken out of context. As this board is aware, we do not consider covenants. One of the reasons we don't consider covenants is we don't want to get enmeshed in interpreting what the parties to the agreement did or did not mean. With reference to how some courts have interpreted the term of residential use, I very specifically stated last week that although, as we've discussed, the majority of jurisdictions when interpreting covenants will look at the actual use of the occupant. There are also other jurisdictions that have found it to be a commercial use. So again, we're not going there. We're not here to interpret the covenants. This is not a covenant issue, and this is not about what Mr. Corey or Mr. Tushin or any party to the covenants intended. That's a third-party agreement. We don't have standing to enforce this. So with that being said, this is also not a VHR issue. This is actually a PUD issue, a plan unit development issue. What many don't understand is that PUDs are their own individual zoning district. Each is different from another. Each have their own conditions. For instance, the PUD earlier considered by this board had several conditions that are not contained within Mr. Tushin's PUD. They're each considered separately. So I thought about this before today's hearing, and the best analogy I can give is, for instance, let's say my building is in a light industrial district, and I want to operate an asphalt batch plant. I'm going to have to do one of two things. I'm either going to have to rezone, because that's not allowed in light industrial, that's an allowed use, or I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to amend the ordinance dealing with allowed uses in light residential. And so Mr. Tushin is in that same place. So we have to look at what does the plan unit development as approved in 2005 allow? It allows residential use. And that's where it's a little confusing. We don't get involved in interpreting covenants. But this is a legislative act by the Pennington County Board, and it is the function of Pennington County to determine what was meant by the board at that time in 2005 when they approved this particular PUD. And I think the best evidence that single-family residence dwelling was the only intended use is one, the Corey's development plan, but even more importantly, in 2005, VHRs were not permitted to operate in residential PUDs. I did a great deal of history on the history of VHRs, and in 2005, at the time this PUD was approved, VHRs were permitted to operate as a hotel in general commercial and highway service, or as a resort development. Those were under the only auspices in which a VHR was allowed to operate in 2005. In fact, an attempt in 2007 to amend our ordinance to have VHRs or to allow VHRs in a residential PUD failed. It was defeated. At that time, the ordinance in highway service and in general commercial was amended to have that as allowed use, but it failed with regard to plan unit developments, residential developments, until the ordinance was passed in 2012. So I think that's the best evidence of what did this board intend. It's not what the developers intended, is what did this board intend when they approved this particular plan unit development. So, accepting that, the only remaining question is whether you're going to allow an amendment of the PUD. And the problem Mr. Tushin has in his application is that a change in use, the allowed uses that were created back in 2005, is considered as you would a wholesale new application, which that makes sense because this doesn't impact just Mr. Tushin, impacts the other property owners within the zoning district. And our ordinance very clearly states that when you form a PUD, you have to have the consent of all the property owners. So that's the challenge for Mr. Tushin in this regard as a major amendment, is I believe he needs to have the consent of the other property owners, and he doesn't. The only other way to approach this is that he's seeking a brand new PUD just for his property, and that kind of goes against the whole purpose of plan unit developments. They're for the development of residential developments, not so you can come in and essentially spot zone and change a use on one parcel property.
Thank you, Michelle. Question?
Madam Chair.
DeSanto, go first.
The letters that we've read that we received in opposition to this vacation home rental only seem to be addressing people bringing trailers. That's what it looks like to me.
There's an attorney who represents Michael Steve. He represents one of the neighbors, so he would probably be able to better address the neighbors' objections.
Okay.
Let me Commissioner Drews was on the planning commission. I'm gonna let him speak and then their lawyer. Okay,
Thank you,
Commissioner
Madam
Drews.
Chair. Thank you, Michelle,
Thank you,
for
Michelle.
your explanation too. As I read through this prior to the Planning Commission meeting, I was reading through it, basing it on vacation home rental issue. It became very clear that this is not a vacation home rental issue. It is a PUD issue, and our ordinance is very clear on that, as Michelle just explained. So I think you need to, first of all, from my opinion, you have to discount the VHR issue completely and deal strictly with the PUD.
Thank you. And I also was on the planning commission the first time before Gary was. And there's 3 people in this PUD and the other 2 weren't in favor of it. So we went, well, I'm sorry. We had one, Mr. Jason, that was up here speaking, and he wasn't in favor of it, so we had them go back. Basically, I can't remember who we had, Brittany, go check to see if the lady in the development agreed with it, and it sounds like when they came back with Gary on the planning commission, she did not agree to that, so that's what I have found out, since then, so. Jason, did you want your lawyer to speak for you, okay. Okay. And just your name, sir.
Morning, Commissioners. Michael Steve. I represent the owners of Track 3, one of which is Jason Steele, who is here today. Commissioner DeSanto, to your questions on exactly what has occurred out there besides just bringing trailers on, there have been a lot of other instances of just trash, misuse of the property, other sorts of instances. Specifically, I will let Mr. Steele discuss those because he will be coming up, and of course, as he lives out there full-time, he'll be able to address those better than I would be able to.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
At this point in time, considering what Gary just said, according to the PUD, if all residents don't agree to allowing that vacation home rental, then any further discussion, in my opinion, is mute.
Right.
And that's exactly, I mean, we agree with you completely that, yes, he's essentially trying to come in here and make an amendment, which is more or less him attempting to unilaterally rezone this by his own choice. It didn't allow VHRs, he now wants them to, and he's attempting to do it without any of the other owners out there wanting them.
Right.
And that is really the short and sweet of our argument.
So Brittany, just a question. So if he can he go out, take himself out of a PUD and rezone it to something else? I mean, can you take yourself out? Because we've done that before. We've taken a person out of a PUD that didn't want to be in it anymore. So what would be the direction if Dennis Tushin wanted to take himself out of a PUD? He can't form another PUD, but what can he do if he wanted to take himself out of it?
That would be difficult because he is in the center of the PUD, so it would create 2 separate PUDs with non-contiguous lots.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I think what we're
Rossman.
forgetting is people's rights, and I'm all about people's rights. And if the neighbors don't want vacation home rentals, they shouldn't have vacation home rentals. And if this covenant said, describe and use for commercial use, even if the covenant said that, it's not zoned for commercial use. Like Mark said, it's pretty much a dead horse.
Right.
Michelle Hoffman, State's Attorney's Office. Along those lines, because obviously I attend these meetings on a biweekly basis, the law does, when there's an ambiguity dispute, generally favor the landowner's use. However, there's one exception to that, and that's PUDs. Because you're coming in and creating a very unique use, a very unique design, its own individual district. So based upon my research, that is an exception. When you have a PUD, those allowed uses and conditions are strictly construed. So I just wanted to point that out, that this is a little bit different than general land use.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So do we have motion or more discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Drews?
I would make the same motion that was made by the Planning Commission, and that is to move to deny without prejudice the major plan unit development amendment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by DeSanto. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Tushin. Next, we have 20M, request for refund penalty, Chad and Kirsten Timmer.
I'll just briefly kind of go over the background on this one. We did receive a complaint regarding 3 existing rental dwellings on this property. And code enforcement did notify these property owners that there were buildings out there without permits. And Mr. Timmer did come in to get the building permits. However, he was charged the double penalty fee, so he is asking for that penalty fee to be returned. And he is in the audience.
Mr. Timmer?
Hello, I'm Chad Timmer, owner with my wife, Rockerville Lodge and Cabins. I wrote a letter about what had happened. We truly didn't realize that building permit would be required. We parked some RV rated park models on our RV spots and didn't realize that they would require a building permit. So once that came to our attention, we did go ahead and get those, apply for those.
Can I ask what you built? They're already built, right? So
Yeah, we did not build anything. We parked the park models on the RV sites.
Okay. So Brittany, can you tell me the rules on park models? Because if they're already built, are you just requiring for the building a permit to put them on there?
Yes, we do require a building permit when they're skirted and they're considered permanent. There was a Supreme Court case on park models. I think it went through equalization. They do assess them as structures. So that's why we do require a building permit. The building permits have been applied for. They're under review right now. We're doing the septic review on adding those.
So Mr. Timmer, do you have more than these 3 on the property? No, what else do you have on the property? Just those?
Oh, we have, we call them lodge rooms and cabins as well. It's a Rockerville Lodge and Cabin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Those are very nice. Commissioner.
was that the Bolts property at one time?
No, nope.
Okay.
This is a different one. It's right in downtown Rockerville.
Oh, okay. So when you pull those in, did you already have your water, electricity, and septic?
Yes, sir.
To me, that makes a lot of
We have
difference.
7
Yep, me too.
existing RV sites there with water, sewer, electricity.
Because not everybody's going to understand you got to have a building permit because they come in on tires, they got license plates.
They have a
So
hitch, yep.
I can see where there can be an oversight.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Can I ask you something, Lloyd? Before you speak, do you have to get a building permit to put a trailer on? Like a regular
Well, you
trailer?
have to get a moving permit for a trailer, yes.
But a building permit once you put it in? Like once you put it in the lot, do you have to get a building permit?
Not from my understanding.
Okay.
But my question on this is we've had big discussions on tiny homes and I drove by these just this weekend and kind of looked over and I'm going, this is no different from some of the other ones that are out, like you said, the park models. They're skirted, they're on a foundation, they're I don't know. My question would be to Ron, does he have to get a building permit when he puts those on his?
I didn't at first, but now I do.
That's where I'm going back and forth on it. I can kind of see your part, but then you also got the cabins and everything else there. And we just went through this taxation deal last year with the resident over these park models and how they're set up and so forth. And it's permanent. I mean, We used to have one commissioner on here who says, just because I didn't know what the speed limit sign was, doesn't mean I wasn't guilty. You know,
Yeah.
and that's how he kind of referred it. So, I mean, as a commissioner, I feel kind of caught 22. I feel that you probably maybe didn't know it, but that doesn't make it right.
Yeah, and then
Madam Chair, I recommend.
hold on, Ron. One thing I'd like to say is, how about the guy that had the sheds that didn't have the building permits? How much penalty was on his sheds? Do you remember, Jason?
$100.
See what I'm saying? So we're gonna keep his $800 sheds penalty on, and we're gonna take a $777 off 3 buildings.
We haven't decided that yet. He's coming
Yeah,
back.
if he comes back, but you see what I'm saying?
But-
You have to, even for a shed, let alone a park model.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner,
I just bought a property that the shed was too big and I had to pay the penalty fee. I didn't put it on there. It was like that, so I had to pay it.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Drews,
I'd vote to deny the request.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Nay.
2 nays and 3 ayes.
Who are the
Motion
other
carries.
nays? Ross Connected. Who is the other nay?
Ross Connect and DeSantos.
Go down at the end.
All right. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
moved by DeSantos, second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.